I grew up in Houston, Texas. My parents moved there when I was very, very young. My dad, for his job, he's a physician. My mother is a lawyer. And so growing up, the intellectual life and the desire to learn and the love of learning was always a part of our life. Religiously, we were a divided house. So my dad is not a believer, and he had self-identified as an atheist as I was growing up. My mom, very fervent, loves her Catholic faith. And I grew up in the
And they are still married.
They are still married, 41 years, 2 days ago.
Oh, beautiful, sister.
Praise God. So growing up, I always knew I was loved. That was never a doubt. I did struggle to find the truth about what was really real, about God, about the universe, about what's the meaning of all this. And seeing my dad, I mean, both of my parents are very intelligent and very loving. So it's not as if my dad had the brains and my mom had the heart, but at all. They both have a lot of brains and a lot of heart.
They do. They do.
But for me, it always seemed as if my dad's non-belief was the reasonable, and my mom's faith was about relationship. So I felt torn growing up between that, feeling as if I had to choose between reason or love and relationship when there's no divide in God at all, who is reason and who is love. As I look back on my life and what God has done to lead me to the truth about himself, he's done that through the classroom in so many ways. When I went on to St. Louis University, I studied philosophy, which was one of the most tremendous blessings I've ever experienced in my life. One time I had a friend who said, a lot of times people study philosophy and lose their faith. So how have you found that to be? And I just had to tell the truth, which was, it's only because of philosophy that I have any faith at all.
Wow.
It opened so many doors. It removed so many obstacles, so many contradictions that I thought I saw. So I've definitely received a lot of the love of the God who is truth through teachers who were willing to listen to my questions and just speak the truth. So 2 years went by between when I returned to the faith, which was my sophomore year of college, and then my senior year, which is when we met. I really was, I think, a baby Catholic for those first 2 years, just falling in love with everything about the church. And I am sure that we talked about how I had begun already thinking about a vocation. And
But you also had a very serious, you told me, boyfriend at the time.
It is true. And we had, picked out names for the first 6 of our future children. And they were all really good Catholic names. And it was a source, I'm glad, looking back, that was a very confusing time trying to discern a religious vocation and the married vocation at the same time while you're in a relationship with this great Catholic man. But looking back, I'm really grateful even for the confusion of that time, because I really began to see, as I was seeing so much of the church with new eyes and for the first time. And so then for the first time, I was looking on marriage as a vocation, a call to holiness, which was just not something that was part of anyone's vocabulary when I was growing up and going to Catholic school. And so having that, yes, it was confusing, but I could also see in that, I would ask myself the question almost unconsciously, is this it? Is this it? Could this be enough? And the answer that just seems so obvious was no, that there could be more, and that's what my heart is asking for. That last year of college, I had also been accepted to law school, and I realized by the time I had graduated that really God was calling me to religious life, and that, in your own words, sister, I needed to get real. And living in reality meant discerning my religious vocation full time at that point. I didn't know where, but I was sure that Jesus wanted me for himself, and I was sure that that was the only thing that was going to make me happy. So I didn't go to law school, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have taken me years to pay off the debt.
It's true, too.
And I I needed to get in. So I spent that year between college and when I ended up entering our community, volunteering with the Missionaries of Charity in Houston,
Beautiful.
which was an amazing experience. I think it was something like having a pre-novitiate, that spirit of learning how to do everything just because it's for Jesus.
Beautiful.
And we have very different spiritualities, but that's the same. And that was a beautiful gift. And I also spent that time visiting different religious communities and coming back.
That's right.
Coming back to ours.
That's right.
I remember a friend of mine one time asked me to describe my perfect life. And I basically described the Dominican life. I said, it's so great to be able to, to have that daily prayer life and to, live side by side with people who are, who love each other and who enjoy each other and who love the truth and who study the truth and who then go out and bring the truth and who, and then I said out loud, wow, that sounds like the Dominican life. And another time somebody asked me to describe my perfect man, and I realized I described Jesus. So these things kept coming back, the Dominicans
Beautiful.
And our community and being a bride of Christ. And so that was 11 years ago that I entered. And
Isn't that beautiful?